Adriane, why don't you tell us what you think the challenge or opportunity is about living to 120 or even 150?
Yes, I'm going to take the lawyer's point of view, and I'm going to make a case for living to 150 societally and in our own thinking and our own attitudes. But first, I'm going to take a look a bit at the science. There's a good reason that Nir and Matt do not say that we're going to live to 150, even 120, because we seem to have a natural lifespan. And when you take a look at those who feel that we could do that, they call themselves transhumanists or posthumanists. In other words, if we can make this 150, this is not thinking of ourselves as we are today, just healthier and living longer and older, as we would if we talk about 100, 115, even up to 120. There's a difference. That difference could be that we would be people of many parts, robotic parts. I like to say I'm 73 and only some parts of me are still good. But I could exchange a hip. I could exchange teeth. My mom lived for an extra 12 years because she had a pacemaker. So we can do some of that today, and a transhumanist would say we could do that with all of our body eventually. There are other tricks like freezing, like changing brains, like downloading our brain into the cloud and having no bodies. So of course, the geroscientists of today don't want to be mixed up with those optics because they're having a hard enough trouble convincing people we could live to 100 and 120. But what would happen if we believed that we could live to 150 as healthy human beings? How would that change society, and what would we have to create to make that a wonderful world? Well, my case is that if we think that way, we will make it a better world today for people who can live to 190, 115, as we see from Nir and Matt, that this all can happen. So let me give you a little bit of a chart without giving you a slide. In 1900, the average age was approximately 47, as Ken showed you. What if people thought they could live twice that long? Well, that's what we're doing today. And what if me at 73 could believe I could live twice that long and I was in the midst of life? That would bring me thinking that I could make it to 150. What changes would take place? I'm going to go through 6 very quickly. All of them, except 2, very beneficial. 1, there would be an entirely new concept of adulthood. Adulthood would be a contributory, exciting phase, not something that we did not look forward to. And that would require a structural change, changes in our feeling about ageism, changing in our feelings about what it meant to be busy. Ask a retiree today, they'll tell you that they're busy. Well, they have to work hard at being busy because there is no real place for contribution right now. And imagine if we had 50 years of that, where we had to work hard at being busy. We have a United Nations that's trying to get an equity for older adults. We have the Older Americans Act in this country. I can tell you as a lawyer, once you have to have acts, treaties, and conventions, there's something wrong. And so we would be developing a whole new concept of adulthood, and we can do that right now. Second thing that would be happening, and this is fascinating to me, is a change in life pacing. And there's a biologic issue to this, and there's a societal issue. Societally, we would work longer. We would go to school longer. We would have time to write that book. We would time to have multiple careers. But we could do some of that right now. We could also stop and smell the roses if we felt that we had more time in our life. The most horrible thing I've ever heard is, and it's supposed to be exciting, live every day as if it was your last. Well, I would be under the covers with cheesecake. I don't want every day to be my last. I want to feel that I have long years. This would take the pressure of young people today also to get busy and get to work before they even know who they are. But there's a biologic issue too to life pacing. When you study cultures where people do live shorter lives, you will see that the girls can actually have babies much younger in life, 9 to 13 years old. In longer lived communities, you can't. 15, 16 becomes an age where you can actually give birth. Well, let's look at the other way around. I gave birth when I was 44. If we think about longer life biologically, we may be having babies later in life. We would have more kinds of grandparents and more kinds of contribution in later life to family. Our anthropologists tell us that the reason we don't die after giving birth is that grandparents still have a role in society of bringing food. Well, we don't do that anymore. And if we're going to live longer, we probably are going to have to take on more contributory roles for the family. Another area is money. We think about money as wealth. One person has more money than the other. If we live to 150, it would be more income than wealth. The wealthiest person would be the one that could sustain themselves. And so I foresee a completely different financial future, different kinds of investing. We now have a bankrupt system when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid. We are really using our own tax dollars, not at trust fund dollars. This would have to change. And if you ask me, one of the great groups that's missing at our very conference today are the actuaries. Where are you? You should be here measuring new lifespans and taking a look at the kind of financial products that are going to allow us to live that long. When I speak, I ask people about this. You're going to live longer, that's the good news. You can't afford it, that's the bad news. We're going to have to be able to have a money system that allows us to afford it. And finally, on the good side, we will all become environmentalists. You know, our kids are mad at us because they say baby boomers have left the planet in a shambles. And I'm still one of the oldest baby boomers, but I'm still a baby boomer, so I get that from my kids. But what if we live to 150? Every one of us would become environmentalists overnight, because even if Matt and Near and all the great geroscientists and even the transhumanists helped us live to 150, it's not going to help if we have fires, hurricanes, and a kind of climate that we can't control. So this would make a real difference in our own thinking, because environmentalism right now is a legacy. But if we lived longer, it would be for us. And now I'm going to end with the two negatives here. I don't know that I want the entire world to be there and be the same. I would like new ideas, continued reinvention, continued creativity. And this is actually a geroscience neurological issue. I did interview a young lady who was a master scientist, a neuroscientist at UCLA, working on lifelong learning. And this is what she taught me. She said, Adriane, it's not about actually taking courses and learning more. It's learning how to learn. And there are neurons that we all share that can create new pathways, not so much for learning anything in particular, but for continuing to learn how to learn. We have that issue in technology, in digital technology, where we are often reluctant, just because of our age, to learn the new technologies, which will be exponentially new if we are living that long. Every day there will be a new technology. So we do have to work with the neuroscientists, not just on issues of dementia. If we can beat that, and we're all over that because of Near's great new genes that'll prevent that, we also have to look at neuroscience and gerontology and geroscience as, again, breaking the silos between them, so that we can take that, what they call crystallized intelligence or wisdom, but also infuse a little bit of fluid intelligence or quick learning into us, into ourselves if we get older. That some people will be able to buy this long life and others won't. And that's why at Catalyst we say healthy longevity for all. We're going to have to beat that problem of the inequality of being able to buy extra years on this planet. So that's what I see here as possibility of assuming we're going to live to 150 and living into it personally and societally right now.